Man had God.
Yeah.
Being in time.
Page 79.
J. Part 2. Being in the world in general as the basic state of Dasein. Section 12. A preliminary sketch of being in the world in terms of an orientation towards being in as such. On the much more of 2020, history's going down. Yeah. In our preparatory discussions, we have brought out some characteristics of being which will provide us with a steady light for our further investigation, but which will at the same time become structurally concrete as that investigation continues. Dasein is an entity which in its very being comports itself understandingly towards that being. In saying this, we are calling attention to the former concept of existence. Dasein exists. Furthermore, Dasein is an entity which in its case I myself and mine as belongs to any existent Dasein and belongs to it as a condition which makes authenticity and inauthenticity possible. In each case, Dasein exists in one or the other of the two modes, or else it is modally undifferentiated. But these are both ways in which Dasein beings takes on a definite character, and they must be seen and understood a priori as a ground upon the state of being which we have called being in the world. An interpretation of this constitutive state is needed if we are to set up our analytic of Dasein correctly. The compound expression being in the world indicates in the very way we are pointing that it stands for a unitary phenomenon. This primary data must be seen as a whole, but while being in the world cannot be broken up into contents which may be pieced together, this does not prevent it from having several constitutive items in its structure. Indeed, the phenomenal data which are expression in cases one which may in fact be looked at in three ways if we study in keeping the whole phenomenon family in mind beforehand. The following items may be brought out for emphasis. First, the inner world. With regard to these, there arises the text of inquiring into the ontological structure of the world and defining the idea of worldhood as such. Second, that entity which in every case has been in the world as the way in which it is. Here we are seeking that which one inquires in when one asks the question who, by a phenomenological demonstration we shall determine who is in the mood of Dasein average everydayness. Third, being in as such, we must set forth the ontological constitution of beinghood itself. Emphasis upon any one of these constituted items signifies that the others are emphasized along with it. This means that in any such case the whole phenomenon gets seen. Of course, being in the world is a state of Dasein which is necessary a priori, but it's far from sufficient for completely determining Dasein's being before making these three phenomena the themes for spatial analysis. We shall attempt by way of orientation to characterize the third of these factors. What is meant by being in? Our proximal reaction is to round up this expression to being in the world, and we are inclined to understand this being in as being in something. This letter term designates the kind of being which an entity has when it is in another one, as the water is in the glass or the garment in the cupboard. By this in we mean the relationship of being which entity extend in space have to each other with regard to their location in that space. But what glass, garment and cupboard are in space and not a location and but in the same way. This relationship of being can be expanded. For instance, the bench in the lecture room in the university in the city, and so on, until we can say that the bench in the world space, all entities whose being in one another can thus be described, have the same kind of being, that of being present at hand, as things occurring within the world, being present at hand, and some which is likewise spread at hand, and being present at hand along with in the sense of a definite location relationship with something else which has the same kind of being, or ontological characteristics which we call categorical. They are of such sort as to belong to entities whose kind of being is not of the character of Daseins being. On the other hand, is the state of Daseins being. It is an existential, so one cannot think of it as the being present at hand of some corporal thing such as a human body in an entity which is present at hand, not does the term being in me. A special in one another's of this present at hand any more than the word in primordial. It signifies a special relationship of this kind. It is derived from inland to side to dwell. It signifies and custom I'm familiar with. I look after something. It has the signification of color in the sense of habito and diligo, the entity to which being. In this signification belongs is one which we have characterized as identity, which in this case I myself am. The expression being is connected with being, and so each being I am means in this stone. I reside all the well alongside the wall as that which is familiar to me in such and such a way. Being as the infinitive of each being, that is to say, when it is understood as an existential, signifies to reside alongside, to be familiar with. Being in is thus the formal existential expression for the being of Dasein, which has been in the world as its essential state, being alongside the world in the sense of being absorbed in the world. A sense which calls for still closer interpretation. It's an existential found upon being in. In this analysis, the issue is one of seeing a primordial structure of Daseins being, a structure in accordance with whose phenomenal content. The concept of being must be articulated because of this, and because this structure is in principle one which cannot be grasped by the traditional ontological categories. This being alongside must be examined still more closely. We shall again choose the method of constructing it with a relationship of being which is essentially different ontologically vs categorical, but we express by the same linguistic mean. The fundamental ontological distinctions are easily obliterated, and if they ought to be envisaged phenomenally in this way, this must be done explicitly, even at the risk of discussing the obvious. The status of the ontological analytic shows, however, that we have been far from interpreting this obvious matter with an adequate grasp, still less with regard for the meaning of their being, and we are even further from possessing a stable coinage from the appropriate structural concept as an existential being alongside the world. Never means anything like the being present and together of things that occur. There is no such thing as the side-by-sideness of an entity called Dasein with another entity called world. Of course, when two things are present and together alongside one another, we are accustomed to express this occasionally by some like the table stands by the door or the chair touches the wall. Taken strictly, touching is never that we are talking about in such cases, not because accurate re-examination will always eventually establish that there is a space between the chair and the wall, but because in principle the chair can never touch the wall, even if the space between them should be equal to zero. If the chair could touch the wall, this would presuppose that the wall is the sort of thing for which a chair would be encounterable. An entity present within the wall can be touched by another entity only if by its very nature the latter entity has been in as its own kind of being. Only if with its being there, some like the world is already revealed to me, so that from out of that wall another entity can manifest itself in touching and thus become accessible in its being present in hand. When two entities are present in hand within the world and furthermore are wordless in themselves, they can never touch each other. Nor can either of them be alongside the other. The clouds, furthermore, are wordless, must not be left out. Yeah, for even entities which are not wordless, they in itself. For example, a president hand in the wall, or more exactly, come with some right and with inside and limit. Be taking a merely president hand to do this. One must completely disregard or just not see the existential state of being in, but the fact that this can be taken as something which is president hand and just president hand. It's not to be confused with a certain way of president hand, which is days and so on. This later kind of president hand becomes successful not by disregarding days and specific structures, but only by understanding them in advance. This in understand its inmost being in the sense of a certain factor being present, and yet the factuality of the fact of one's own days in is a bottom quite different ontologically from the factual occurrence of some kind of mineral. For example, whenever days in is as a fact, and the factuality of such a fact is what we shall call days is facticity. This is a definite way of being, and it has a complicated structure which cannot even be drops as a problem until this is basic existential states are being works out. The concept of facticity implies that an entity within the world has been in the world in such a way that it can't understand itself is bound up with the being of those entities which it encounters within its own wall. In the first instance, it is enough to see the ontological difference between being in as an existential and the category of the inside net which things present at hand can have with regard to one another. By thus demoliting being in, we are not denying every kind of speciality. But they sin, on the contrary, they sin itself as a being in space of its own. But this in turn is possible only on the basis of being in the world in general. Hence, being in is not to be explained ontologically by some ontological characterization. I see one word to say, for instance, that being in a world is a spiritual property, and that man's speciality is a result of his bodily nature, which at the same time always get founded upon corporeality. Here again, we are faced with the being present hand to get off some such spiritual thing alongside with a corporal thing, while the being of the entity, such component remains more obscure than ever, not until we understand being in the world as sin. Essential structure of dating. Can we have any insight into this existential speciality, such that insight will keep us from failing to see the structure, or from previously cancelling it out? A procedure motivated not ontologically but rather metaphysically by the naive position that man is in the first instance a spiritual thing, which subsequently gets misplaced into a space. Lessons facticity is such that its being in the world has always dispersed itself or even split itself up into definite ways of being in. The multiplicity of these is indicated by the following example: having to do with something, producing something, attending to something, and looking after it, making use of something, giving something up and letting it go untaken, accomplishing, investing, interrogating, considering, discussing, determining. All these ways of being in have concerned us, yeah, kind of being, the kind of being which we have yet to characterize indeed and living on, don't neglect and renounce and taking the rest. These two are a concern, but these are all deficient moods in which the possibilities of concern are kept to all bare minimum. The term concern has in the first instance its logical signification and can mean to carry out something, get done, to straighten it out. It can also mean to provide oneself with something. We use the expression with still another characteristic on the phrase when we say I am concerned for success of the undertaking. Your concern means something like apprehensiveness. It constructs to this colloquial article signification. The expression concern will be used in this investigation as an ontological term for an existential and will designate the being of a possible way of being in the world. This term has been chosen not because this happens to be approximately and to a large extent practical and economic, but because being of this in itself.
Be made visible as clear.
J.